Hello people, it's Mukesh here and welcome to the When's Enough channel. So it's a rather rainy and cold Thursday morning down here in the Western Cape Town. So sit back, relax, and here's another post of mine. Thank you. There's a nice rear step with a tow bar. It's solid, and it's, as you can see, there's superficial surface rust. Once again, the canopy, let me open that for you. Well, a faulty gas strut, nothing too big. And a load bay, a load bed that has been repaired. A tailgate that works all fine, functions well. Opens and closes, open and shuts quite easily. Alloy factory designed rims by Toyota. Definitely dings and bumps on the panels, nothing major. You must remember, with these particular vehicles, due to the year, this is now going almost 20 years, the vehicle has seemed to have had quite a hectic, hard life. There are a few bumps on the roof as well. And just to bring you to attention, if you look closely, you can see that there was definitely a fender bender in the front, a front end fence smash, that's for sure. But we'll come back to that later. Panel gaps don't line up too wonderfully. But then again, it's Toyota, it's not one of the niche brands, it's your consumer brand, not one of the high-end brands. So even on the new ones, I suppose the panel gaps are not like you would find in your high-end luxury German vehicles. Okay, let's go into to the interior. Oh yes, on the exterior there isn't, as far as where I'm concerned, even though there has been, it's had a spray over or a blow over, there isn't any rust whatsoever. I can attest to that. Just slight superficial rust. Let's quickly look into the interior. It's a Toyota. What do you expect? Legendary, rock solid build quality. Once again, not high-end luxury stuff, outdated but classic. Seats are fairly good condition, no tears, a few cigarette holes. Windscreen's got a brand new, seems to have been affected by the front end smash, replaced, that's for sure. Windows all work, roof linings 100%. All electrical window switches work, manual, exterior mirrors, door mirrors, all working fine. Doors open and shut fine. Oh, those are the mud guards. I'm trying to get a set of mud guards. The original ones were missing. Obviously this vehicle's been had some heavy off-road use, that's for sure. Purchased at an auction. Sorry, forgive me, I beg your pardon. Purchased privately from an electrical contractor here in the Western Cape. Obviously he didn't look after it too well. Dog's hair gets all in the way. Okay, so this is just a quick tour of the inside and the outside. Then we're going to get into the crux, the nitty-gritty. The rear seat's all fine. Front is all good. Everything works. Speedo, clock, air conditioner, power steering. It's got a factory alarm system, immobilizer, works 100%. Tires are really good, quite at least 4 years old. BF Goodrich all-terrain, wonderful tires. I'd say front has 70% tread and rear is almost 90. Let's look at the back. Oh, it's got a jack. And that's about it. No toolkit as such, don't need one. It's a Toyota. Okay. It's got a bull bar. It's got a tow bar underneath, tow hook, so it's well secured should you get stuck in sand. And I went and did check properly, everything's solid. Brackets are original, the bolts are nice and strong. Okay, so let's take a look at the nitty-gritty. Let's look at the crux of this bucky, at the backbone of this bucky, underneath the chassis, and the engine, and the frame as such. So let's start her up. 3-liter KZTE, 1 KZ diesel. Let's give it a go. Lights up like a Christmas tree. Thankfully there's no warning lights that tend to stay on. Everything seems to work. There we go, starts up nicely. It's a diesel, so it's noisy. Okay, there we go. Sounds awesome, super nice. It's got 311 kilometers, 1,000 kilometers on the clock. Engine sounds absolutely amazing. No smoke whatsoever. Let me give you the rundown on this motor. I am a mechanic, so I know my way around motors and engines as such. Especially I specialize in petrol, but I'm quite familiar with diesel. So let's go. The motor is your basic 3-liter diesel. It's got an iron block and an aluminium head. It's just a straight 8 valve, 2 inlets, 2 exhausts per cylinder, 8 in all. Okay, here's the magic. It's got a beautiful, awesome electronic fuel pump, guys. So wow, this thing ticks the box perfectly there in that department. Everyone wants an electronically fuel injected EFI diesel fuel pump. It's the mother of fuel pumps. No one wants the old mechanical ones anymore. So what's the benefit? What's the joy of having something like an electronic fuel pump? Well, fuel mixture is automatically set. The cold starts are perfect. It's got some special. It's controlled by a computer or a PC box. It caters for the cold mornings. It automatically adjusts your idle. When your accessories like the air conditioner goes on, it has a digital compensator inside there that increases your revs so they don't drop too low. It's got, I suppose, it has the some anti-pollution controls inside there as well. That helps in negating the amount of smoke that comes out of your exhaust. So that's your throttle body. This is a lovely little it's not a cable controlled throttle body, it's an electronically controlled throttle body. In other words, there is a cable, but the throttle itself is controlled by the ECU, the computer. It's got a timing belt, so that's awesome. In other words, very simple to replace and service. Just remove this outer cover. This is done at every 100,000 kilometers. Unfortunately, this Bucky doesn't have a service record. I haven't been at the dealership. I'm sure that if we go to a Toyota dealership, we should be able to pick it up from the VIN number. That shouldn't be, but I was not handed any service book as such. But the motor absolutely looks untouched. Oh, and here's another thing to tick, make note of. It's got ABS. Wow, ABS. An anti-lock braking system. Works perfectly. Vehicles of this vintage, usually those things are the first to pop. Fortunately, this one's working 100%. So no dry road lockups. Works awesomely on off-road, dirt roads. Tested and done, been there, done that. Okay, what you guys need to be aware of on these 3-liter diesels, particularly the 1KZ, they have been notorious for destroying the cylinder heads. Reason? The EGR valve, exhaust gas recirculation valve, that tends to get clogged up. Our valve clogs up, rather. The exhaust gas temperatures soar up to over 800 degrees, and when that happens, the cylinder head gets cracked due to heat, and the cylinder head gasket is also destroyed in the process, causing water to get to mix with the oil, or vice versa. So at this amount of kilometers, that is 311,000 Ks, that's the safety margin. Once you pass the initial 160,000 kilometers, that's usually the time when the head pops. It's past that mark. I have no idea whether this head was replaced. It apparently happens on specific VIN numbers, especially here in South Africa. But clearly this one, looking at the engine, looking at the nuts and bolts, being a mechanic, I'm going to take a guess. I'm going to take a calculated guess and say this thing was never opened, so it looks like the original head. So all good. At 311 Ks, it's past that dangerous point. I don't think she's going to pop it now. She's going to just go and go. These motors can run well over 1 million Ks, people. Well over 1 million. Wipers all work, so there we go. It's the ABS relay. Fuse box. The fan is controlled with the thermostat. It's got a little control thingy there. I can't get the name now, but it's not an electric fan. It has a little part inside there that when the engine heats up, the wax in there melts and the fan starts spinning faster. So I can't get the name now, but that is what it is. So that works fine. Clutch is fine. Brake fluid fine. Brakes all 100%. Oh yes, I've replaced the fuel filter. And also so that's replaced. So all good there. Let's go to what all you 4x4 people really love. The backbone. The bones and nuts of this vehicle. So I'm under the vehicle, and fortunately there is no major rust. The early Tacomas up there in apparently these were in the United States. The frames used to rust out, and it used to actually collapse, resulting in collapse, totally collapsing vehicle. So that issue was never occurred in places like other countries, including South Africa. So the frame's all good. And the thing has an awesome rear diff lock, which is computer controlled. It's obviously comes from Toyota. The local ones here are made by Gearmax, which is a South African subsidiary or company. So the rear diff is fine, the pinion and the planetary gear all seems fine, no noises. Tires, there just tends to be a bit of tire roar from these 4x4 all-terrain tires, which is quite normal. The bearings seem okay. To be honest, I think the bearing on the left rear wheel is worn out, needs to be replaced. It is, guys, that is people, that is quite a hectic, quite a mission. So that obviously will be factored into the price when selling this vehicle. Up here in the front, here's your transfer box, as it's called. The transfers your transmission, your vehicle from two-wheel rear drive mode with the shift of a little gear in the interior console rather into four-wheel drive. So as you can see, no oil leaks, no transmission oil leaks whatsoever. I replaced the right axle there, the right wheel CV joint, not the axle, just the CV joint, and I've replaced both bearings. Okay, being a mechanic and someone who also specializes in suspensions, I've repaired quite a few accident damaged vehicles. I must be honest, this vehicle is as straight as they come. You're welcome to have it checked out. No serious, no damage whatsoever apart from minor knocks and bumps, bruises. But the vehicle drives straight, no pulling. The frames themselves in the front, the rails, they all look straight. The control arms, upper and lower, the rubbers all seem fine. So the front diff is fine, oil levels are all 100%. The no vibrations. The shift from two-wheel to four-wheel is smooth and as normal. This is you need to be aware, people, that this is a torsion beam setup. The newer vehicles are coil sprung. They have coil sprung or coil overs, as they called, setups. So in other words, they don't have this torsion beam that acts as a coil spring. So the newer vehicles have coil springs, of course, naturally, because they're more comfortable. They purely for that reason, and they don't tend to sag. Unfortunately, these torsion beams tend to lose their, or become very they become softer in a way, and tend to sag sometimes. You'll find lots of these vehicles. So there is a little adjustment bolt here, nut that you need to adjust. There's one on either side to if it sags. So that's one of the issues with these torsion beams. So that's hence I think that's the reason they stopped using them on the newer vehicles. But otherwise they absolutely work fine. To replace them, I suppose, would be quite expensive. Let's check out underneath the engine itself. Unfortunately, there is a splash tray. It's by no way any protector or guard in 4x4. It's very thin sheet metal, but it does serve the purpose. It's steel. Anyway, let's look. Like you can see, the mounting points and the brackets to the bull bar are very firmly mounted. That's an emergency tow hook. Unfortunately, this vehicle doesn't have a recovery hook. which every 4x4 must have. So one has to be fitted on there. Like, CV boots are all fine. ABS, no leaks. CV boots are 100%. And here's another difference between the new vehicles and the old ones. These ones have a recirculating ball steering system, and the newer ones have a steering rack or rack and pinion system. So the old ones, the recirculating ball, is really ancient. It goes back to the very first vehicles that were manufactured. The shocks need replacing, that's for sure. They are soft. They are not as firm as a new shock should be. On this end, you have the steering box, and here's your pitman arm. So all these are checked out. The bushings are fine. The ball joints are fine, and I think the upper ball joint here is worn, so needs replacing. Once again, boots all 100%. Okay guys, and no leaks. As you can see, sorry if it's not focusing too well. There might be an issue here. There is a slight, very tiny leak on the power steering pump. In fact, it's just a drop there, very minor, but should be seen to. No leaks here under the sump. Just a bit of oil sweat, nothing to complain about, no worry about. And the rear oil seal, if you look at the gearbox, the bell housing, and that metal plate between the sump and the oil pan and the bell housing, you'll notice that if there was a rear oil seal, oil will be leaking down there. This is bone dry. That's a front differential prop shaft, so that's all 100%. Clutch slave cylinder, 100%, no leaks.